Hey guys, hopping in here to not talk to you about rehabilitation specifically. And when I talk about rehabilitation, what I mean is not like going to the counselor and things like that. I'm talking about as an athletic trainer and how I've worked with athletes. And you can reference and see more in the blog below because I'm putting this video into this blog, and so they intermix together. So the examples play really well. But you can see how in there I talk about how coming up with like our life goals is a lot like rehabilitation. So I'm going to kind of walk you through maybe what some goal setting looks like. Yes, I know the elephant in the room, but you could even think of it as like a roadmap or however you need to envision it, and think of your goals like mile markers. And you have to do, obviously, put gas in our car and get to mile marker 1 before we can get to mile marker 2, and so on and so forth until we reach our destination, right? Rehab works very similar. And I think sometimes when we're coming up with goals, we don't give ourselves grace in the process. We have this like crazy expectation that we are going to come, like, just have some crazy instant success results. And that's just not life. That's not how it really works. So creating some grace when you're coming up with your goals in the process to get to the destination, you're going to find so much more success in the process. So what does that look like? You're like, Tara, come on, let's go. So, I think a lot of us are very familiar with the analogy of SMART. What is it? Specific, measurable. I forget what the A is every time I do this talk. I feel like it's accountability. It's probably actually something else. Realistic and timely. But go through that kind of a process when you're looking at your goals. Again, same thing like your mile markers. And give yourself grace and a lot of leniency in the process. In fact, if you're looking at like health, for example, don't get into it from the aspect of, I'm going to lose 50 pounds in a month, because we all know that that's not realistic. And we'll get frustrated with the process and quit and go eat that hamburger and have some ice cream and cake. So, not really going to help build you up, but maybe start super small. And so, if our goal, let's make our destination losing the 50 pounds, right? So, let's reverse engineer that and start off super simple. So, we've maybe worked it backwards a little bit if you would like, but start off super simple. Start off with, maybe you come up with learning some new recipes, discovering some new foods. It's maybe reading some books to help you get where you're going to that 50. Maybe it's simply fitting in a walk 3 times a week. Whatever this needs to look like for you, start simple. And then once you've done that, you can reassess what maybe that next step is, because I feel like sometimes with goals, we even find that we need to adjust and change as we go. So we've set our final destination, and again, give yourself grace. Maybe give yourself a year to reach that losing of 50 pounds. And if you don't get that specific 50 pounds at the end of your journey, don't beat yourself up, because you got to go back and look at the journey. And maybe your journey is just going to take a little longer. So you got to give it a little bit more time and push it on out. But as you plan that, create little small action steps that are going to be easier for you to accomplish. When you can say, yep, I've met that goal. I've done the research. I did it for a month and I figured it out. Or, okay, great. I love this exercise. I explored exercises, different exercise methods for 30 days, and I found my favorites, and I'm going to integrate them in. I've also learned that I don't like these, and so I will not do them. So figuring out giving yourself that phase of figuring out, just like what I have to do in a rehab. I have to help a patient work on getting their range of motion back if I'm doing something, of a more long-term rehab. So there's more work involved, and sometimes that takes a little bit. Like some people are really easy and they get it back super quick, and other people take a little bit more work, and we have to kind of pivot and shift in what our goals are and the methods that we use. So give yourself some grace as you do that. And if you are struggling with trying to figure out what some of those goals are, I want you to go look at the quiz below. This quiz kind of takes a look at 7 key areas in your life, and you can figure out where you feel like you're the most out of whack. and it will help you to then go and put some deeper thought into creating some goals to kind of get life a little bit more back in sync. There's never this perfect balance. Life always ebbs and flows, but at the end of the day, trying to create some better whole person life, you're going to feel a lot more successful. I guess successful is not the word. Thriving in life. So take that quiz, see how it might benefit you, and then wherever you feel kind of, okay, this one's really off and I don't feel very fulfilled in it, then maybe we can create some goals into that to kind of balance it back out. Is it, again, health is a super simple one that we just kind of walk through, and giving ourselves grace and reducing our weight, right? And giving ourselves a longer process and working on the long game. The other one might be your finances, and maybe it's you need to check out a system for you. I highly suggest looking into the Green Gap. Maybe it is giving yourself more time to come up with your budget. Sometimes we expect like a budget to be something we just sit down and figure out in an hour, but maybe we need to give ourselves the month to really see how we spend money and things like that before we can create like a more solid budget. Maybe we need more time to research in investing. And so that's a goal, is that we sit down for like a month. Like sometimes I think we really forget about the research and figuring things out part of the process, and we want this instant gratification. That's just the day and age that we live in. So, but what I do when I look at those 7 key areas is I come up with 3 goals for each one. And you might be challenged on some of those goals of even coming up with 3, and that's okay, but do your best, because you'll come up with 21 goals, and it'll be a lot to kind of get yourself a little bit more, even I think it's even good to come up with goals in the areas where you feel like you're doing really well in life. But come up with goals, because we always have room for growth. But maybe for you, as you're going through and you're narrowing down those goals, because you're going to narrow them down to 7, and ideally, you can think of it being 1 for each of the 7 areas, but it doesn't have to be that. You can pick 3 where you feel like life is most out of whack, and then maybe you pick 4 more from other places. If you feel like you're doing really good in the friend department, you don't need to pick the friend department. You maybe go focus on some family things or a financial goal or what have you. So grab those 7. And those tend to be the ones that we like to really focus on in a year. But out of those 7, grab the 1. What is your 1? Share with me below what your 1 goal is for the year. And once you grab that 1 goal, that's the one you really focus in on. So if it's health, if it's that losing 50 pounds, really focus in and center on that. And then once you kind of get that one in motion and it's going fluid, you've done the research, you've done the things, you've tested some things out, you've made it your primary focus, and it's moving fluid, or at least somewhat fluid. We're maybe making little pivots, but you feel comfortable in making those pivots. Then you can add in working on the next goal and kind of do that same thing, and then the next goal. And you'll find out that maybe by the end of the calendar year, you've accomplished more goals than you've ever accomplished before in your life. So hopefully you guys have found this helpful. Thank you so much for your time today and tuning in. And I look forward to talking to you guys again soon. Bye-bye.